Hey guys, welcome to the Pro MMA Betting podcast. I've had a really hectic week, so I wasn't going to do the podcast this week, but I'm just going to cram one out now. It's not going to be as detailed as normal. I'm literally going to fly through the fights. I was going to pass, but I had such a bad week with the picks last week. I went 2-10 on the podcast, which is easily the worst I've ever done. So I just want to quickly bang one out because I want to try and make amends for the 2-10. Just so you know, though, when you're not confident on a card, there's no need to be reaching for bets. I only had the one bet last week. Well, I had two. I had Jamal Emmers as well, but the fight got forfeited, so never happened. The only other bet I had was 1 unit on Chavez, which was a terrible bet. No excuses. Looked too much into his debut, took too much from it, and Gordon looked better than he did against Fishgold. I bet Gordon in that fight, and he on the feet he just looked really slow and lacklustre to me. Missing weight by 4 pounds probably helped Gordon here with his strategy. Wasn't ideal, but nonetheless, not a great bet. I mean, I did take Chavez, and he was tipped at a pick'em, but still, not a good bet. So, but 1 unit loss, I can live with that. That was the only bet I had with the Emmers cancellation, and my lack of confidence in the card was reflected in my results, 2-10, absolutely terrible. So I'm just going to run through the card really, really quickly. I'm not going to go into detail like I normally do. I just haven't got time this week. So we'll just start from the bottom of the card, work our way up. Jacoby taking on Grishin. I'm going to pick Jacoby here. I don't love the price on him, just because there's a few unknowns. He did gas on the Contender Series, but Grishin just fights at such a low pace. I don't think Jacoby's cardio is going to be a factor here. I just think he's got more volume. I just think he'll win a decision by doing enough on the feet, basically. So Jacoby there. Vince Cachero taking on Ronnie Lawrence next. Good fight, well matched. Maybe should be more of a pick-em on the line. Ronnie looked good on Contender Series, but he was facing a guy with 0 takedown defense. You can watch Ronnie's fight before the Contender Series. I think it was the one before the Contender Series where he wins a 3-round decision. He's a little bit erratic on the feet. A lot of what he does on the feet is spins. Caceres is the more fundamentally sound striker. But Lawrence he's really gritty. He will use his wrestling. He did in that fight before the Contender Series as well. He hasn't got the best top control. Fights I watch, people are always getting up. So he normally needs a lot of takedowns to rely on winning via grappling. Cachero we saw against Emmers, he came in on short notice, very tough guy, took a beating in that fight and never looked like he was going to be stopped. Showed really good cardio as well. Trains out of, not Elevation, the other camp, I always get the two confused, Factory X, so he's at a good camp. I don't think he's been there that long, maybe a year now, so could be some progress in his game. I think it's dog or pass personally, so I have to lean Cachero there. Lawrence, as I say, he is gritty though. It's never fun betting against that type of guy. He's going to keep coming. He brings a high pace, but so did Emmers. And like I said, Cachero never slowed down. In fact, it was Emmers that was starting to slow down, and he took that on short notice. So I'm gonna go with Cachero. Sabina Mazo, Alexis Davis next. The line's come down on Mazo. She's like minus 200 now. I would class this as a low-level women's MMA fight. You know, generally I will go with a dog in low-level women's MMA, but Alexis Davis just been out for so long. I think she's been out for 18 months. Let me just have a look. And she wears damage so bad. It's just really bad optics for judging. If it's a stand-up fight for 3 rounds, her face is going to look a mess. You've only got to hit her and she marks up. So it's never a great look in it, especially if the fight's close. And the best case for Davis here, it's probably going to be a close fight. And then is she going to be able to nick a decision? So she's been out for, about 18 months. She had a 18-month layoff before, I think, as well. Let me just double check that. April 20. It was a long time ago, though. Last time she had a layoff this long. Going back like 4 years or so, 5 years even. 3 straight losses, good competition, and she gave Jennifer Mayra a good fight. It was a close fight. She gave Arujo a decent fight. It was 1-1 going into round 3. Lots of experience for Alexis. Bit of a zombie. She'll keep coming. And Mazo is a young kid, only 23 years of age. You know, there's a 13-year age difference here. Massive age difference. She was 2 down to Justine Kish going into round 3. Pulled it out the bag. JJ Aldridge fight, very close, competitive. Look, I want to pick Mazo because she's the young gun. She's at a good camp. She's at King's. She's obviously improving, you would think, fight to fight at this age. Whereas Alexis, long layoff. I'm going to pick Mazo here. I'm not going against my gut. The layoff, 36 years of age. She's taken a lot of punishment. Alexis, I think she was off. Has she had another baby? Is that why she's been off? If it is, I think that's her second one. So then she's coming back from a. Has there ever been a woman that's had 2 kids and fought at a high level and has come back each time while she's actively fighting in the UFC? I don't recall. It's a lot of stress to go through. If it is a baby, I haven't checked her Instagram or whatnot, but someone did mention, I think it was on my Discord chat, someone mentioned that. So I'm going to go Mazo. I can't bet it. I'm not laying -200 on a girl that in her last fight was 2-0 down to Justine Kish, but just the variables here with the layoff, the youth, the good camp, the hunger, you know, what's Alexis Davis fighting for now? Title aspirations are not going to happen. Is she fighting just to feed her mouth, her kids' mouths? Yeah, it's too wide. I'm not paying -200, but I'm not going to pick the dog here like I normally do. My gut just says youth is going to prevail here, so I'm going to go with Mazo. Next fight is Alex Oliveira taking on Ramazan Kuramagomedov. Haven't dived into this one deeply. I know Brazilian Cowboy well anyway. Ramazan, I remember his fight on the Contender Series a couple of years ago. He didn't look great. He's only a young guy though. I think he's only 23 or 24 now. So on the Contender Series, he must have been 21, 22. Had a close competitive stand-up battle with Jordan Williams. I watched Ramazan's last fight. Basically went for takedowns, dominated on the ground. He didn't look great on the feet, but the fight didn't play out on the feet for long. The problem with Cowboy is he's terrible off his back. And he's one of those fighters, he's one of them guys that you should only really bet as a dog. He's like a dog or pass type fighter. And this is basically a pick 'em. The line just seems incredibly accurate to me. I get why some people are betting Brazilian Cowboy, but he's just a liability off of his back. And I think that's where Ramazan is going to try and take the fight. I'm not even making a prediction on this fight. If anyone hit +120, I think they would probably be the right play. Anything wider than that, definitely the right play. But at Pick'em, just seems incredibly accurate. It's a pass fight for me. Thiago Moises, Alexander Hernandez. Tough one. I've taped this one weeks ago now, and I really wanted to like Thiago Moises pre-tape, and I came away I was just unable to pull the trigger on him. Did show some improvement against Bobby Green, but there was some factors in the Bobby Green fight I didn't particularly like. He did tend to slow down on it. I think he fought in spurts, kind of on the feet. So he's about -180 now, Alex Hernandez. You know, he's at the new camp. He looked good last time out, albeit against. He had a good fight to build his confidence. I can see this being a competitive fight. I'm going to go with Hernandez. I'm going to give him another chance. But I'm not confident. I wouldn't lay -180 on him. And Thiago Moises, as I said, I wanted to bet him, but after I'd done tape, I just couldn't. He still has a bad issue of backing up. You saw it in round 2 against Bobby Green, and Bobby Green just kind of let him off the hook. I don't know why. I guess it's Bobby Green. You know, his fight IQ isn't the best. He always fights down to his opponents. He makes fights close. But he was still in round 2. He looked better in round 1. He's definitely been working on not backing up, you can tell. But he did revert to type in round 2, and he started doing it again. It's just a real bad habit that he needs to try and shift, and he's struggling to shift it. But there was some signs of improvement there against Bobby Green. But I think Hernandez is going to try and... I mean, that's not really Hernandez's style, though, to pressure him. So might give Moises a chance here. Hernandez, I imagine, is going to try and fight on the outside, in and out kind of movement. Yeah, this is a tough one for me. Look, I'm probably going to pick Moises. I haven't bet it, like I said. I came away from tape and just couldn't do it. But I think this is going to be a close fight. I just think it's going to be closer than it's lined. So I'll go with Moises. I'm banking on further improvements here. But Hernandez could come out looking a new man here. He could have his confidence rebuilt. He's at a new camp as well. Good win last time out. I'm not confident either way, but I'm going to go with the dog. Just as I said, I haven't bet it. I'm not confident at all, but I would rather bet Moises if I had to here at plus 130, plus 140 than lay minus 180 on Hernandez. Caceres, Kevin Croom. Kevin Croom coming from James Krause's camp. James has been doing really well with the low level guys lately, really working on their fight IQ, getting them wins. Marquez won the other week. Last week we saw Derek Minnow win. Now he's got Kevin Croom coming in against Alex Caceres. Alex Caceres you can knock back as a favourite in my opinion. He's been bet down from minus 250, rightly so, to about minus 200 now. People are taking a chance on Kevin Croom, who doesn't look great on tape, but I'm going to pick Kevin Croom just because Alex Caceres minus 200. No, I mean, when you do the tape, it does make you second guess yourself if you're betting Kevin Croom here, but I think he might look better here. As I say, he's training full time with James Krause. James Krause is a very intelligent coach. He really gets his fighters to come in with a good game plan. There's no way I'm betting Alex Caceres. If I have to bet this fight, it's Kevin Croom. Not confident in Croom. Like I say, you watch tape and there's things not to like. But Alex Caceres, he always gets taken down. He always gives his back up. There are paths to victory here. So at that price, I think if you're going to play the fight, a small play on Croom is warranted. Angela Hill, Ashley Yoder. Short notice fight, week's notice for both. They fought about 3.5 years ago. Angela Hill won a it was competitive. It was one of them competitive 30-27 type fights. Like round 2 could have gone either way. Round 1 and 3 were Hill's. I think Hill's probably the one that's made more improvement since that first fight. She's unlucky to be coming off back-to-back losses. She could have won both. Unlucky to have got the loss in both of them fights. Ashley Yoder, incredibly frustrating to bet. I have bet her in the past, like I bet her against Souza. I thought she nicked that decision, but it was close. But she made some silly decisions in that fight. Like in most of her fights, she tries to jump on your back and she often ends up on the bottom. It's just silly moments of fight IQ she has. She's not bad offensively on the feet, but she's very wooden defensively, very upright, there to be hit. I remember when her and Brandon Marcos had the outside foot battle and they both were just creeping over. I've never seen anything like it. They were both just creeping over towards the fence in a very linear fashion where they was both battling for the outside foot. It was just bizarre. So she's not bad offensively. She does fight southpaw. She's got a decent body kick, a decent straight left. But Angela Hill should win this fight on the feet. Will the grappling come into play? Angela Hill's improved her takedown defence. Her get-ups have improved. The line's like she's minus 350, minus 375. You know, no one wants to be laying that on Angela Hill. Do I regard this as a low-level women's MMA fight? I think I would keep this out of what I would regard low-level women's MMA. Ashley Yoder normally I would regard as being in low-level women's MMA fights. You know, like she fought Granger last time. For me, that's a low-level women's MMA fight. I think Angela Hill has improved a lot in recent years, and I think I don't class her as a lower-level women's MMA girl anymore. So I think she just rises this fight just above the lower-level standard. And why I think if you're going to bet the fight, the play is probably Yoder. If you do think that Hill is going to win this fight, I think probably the play to look at is decision. It's about minus 170, which isn't great, but it's women's MMA. I can't see a finish here. You know, Angela Hill doesn't finish fights. I know she got the stoppage win over Cyphers, but she's absolutely terrible off of her back. And then she got the cut win. But I mean, how many women's fights have been stopped by cuts in the UFC history? I mean, I could be completely off here, but I think hardly any. Angela Hill fight with Carnelossi, I think her name was, and then I remember the fight with I can't remember her name when her ear was hanging off, but that's not even a cut, you know, actual cut. It would just be incredibly unlucky. That's the only way I see Hill finishing. So if you like Hill, maybe decision, but if not, you know, I can't fault anyone taking a punt on Yoder at like plus 300 almost. Stranger things have happened, and she didn't. You know, round 2 was close. She did get a takedown. Did get some top control, but like I say, Angela's takedown defense has definitely improved. But on the feet, I think Angela wins this fight very, very often. Pedro Munhoz, Jimmie Rivera next, so we're going for third time lucky. First fight they fought about 5 years ago in Brazil. Jimmie won a very close decision. He was coasting in the fight for 1.5 rounds, tooling Pedro. Speed difference was just too much. But then Jimmie hurt him. He got a bit overzealous going for the finish. He got clipped, got wobbled, and then a minute or so later in the same round, he got clipped and wobbled again. And then round 3 was close. I did edge it to Jimmie, but it was a close round. Jimmie slowed down. From when he got hurt, he really slowed down. And apparently, I've seen an interview with him. He said he took it on short notice. I haven't looked in to verify that. But this one, he's saying he's definitely in shape and ready to go free. I think as long as his cardio holds up, he wins this fight. He was all over Pedro. I mean, Pedro's kind of a perfect fight for Jimmie in a way, in that there's just a big speed difference. Jimmie is the quickest guy in the division. His hands are ridiculously quick. I think, I know this is a big if, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but if you take away the 2 knockdowns against Jan, I scored that fight 30-27 for Jimmie, and those 2 knockdowns were right at the end of round 1 and 2. A bit of luck on his side. He could have 30-27 the champ. He's just really, really fast. You watch a Don Dodson fight, and he's quicker than Dodson. He's real quick, Jimmie. He's been wobbled a few times. I'm not going to say he's chinny. He's only been stopped once. That was from the head kick, which, fake flush head kick just will take most people out. But Pedro, he has improved with his power, but I'd be surprised if he put Jimmie away here. He's got the guillotine threat, but Jimmie's got no neck. I can't see him guillotining him. I like Jimmie here. I mean, it's never fun betting against Pedro. It is a small cage as well, and he's going to be in your face, but I just think Jimmie's too slick, so Jimmie for me. Montana De La Rosa taking on Bueno Silva. Silva is a beast, real savage on the feet. If you said to me this fight will be standing for 3 rounds, I would be all over the Silva line. The problem is her takedown defense, very leaky takedown defense. She's dangerous off of her back. She caught Gillian Robertson off of her back. I was going to say Gillian Henderson, isn't that the X-Files dad? She caught Gillian Robertson off her back. She also caught, I can't remember the girl's name in her last fight. She caught her from her back as well with an armbar. So she is dangerous off of her back, but takedown defense isn't great. Montana, she's a good grappler. She is a good grappler. Her stand-up's improved, but I can't see her winning the stand-up here. I think she would just get out-savaged on the feet. She's going to need takedowns, and she can get them. Her takedowns aren't awful. She's got to watch being armbarred, but she might only need 2 takedowns here to win this fight, because she is a good grappler. She's good from top control. So, this falls under lower level women's MMA for me, and I don't feel great about it. I haven't bet it, but I think Montana can get 2 takedowns here, and if she can maintain top control for the majority of those rounds, she can nick a decision here. So, I don't think there's any incredible value. It's plus 120, much rather plus 150 or so. But at that line, I'll go with De La Rosa as the slight underdog. If it was closer to a pick-em, I'd pick Silva. But I'm sticking with the lower level women's MMA dog theory that I've got going here. And I can see a path to victory for De La Rosa. As I said, Silva's takedown defense isn't good. Co-main is Ankalaev taking on Krylov. Good fight in the light heavyweight division. He's a big favourite, Ankalaev, so you can't really bet him. I'm sure people have parlayed him and so forth, but I do like Ankalaev. He'll fight opposite stance to his opponent, so he's probably going to fight southpaw here against Krylov, who is an orthodox fighter, I'm pretty sure. Krylov, this is his second crack in the UFC. He's looked somewhat improved, I would say. He's coming off he's 2-2 since he returned to the UFC. He's lost to Glover Teixeira and also, let me bring up the record one sec, and Jan, and he's beaten OSP and Johnny Walker. Grappled Johnny Walker basically, showed clever fight IQ there, used his grappling. OSP had a rough first round, but OSP gassed, and then he managed to get him down and sub him in round 2. Glover pretty back and forth fight, that one. He was struggling on the feet with Glover, though. Glover was actually getting the better of him. We know how slow and plodding Glover is these days on the feet. So that was quite surprising for me to see. And the Yan fight, he got taken down and subbed. Ankalaev, we always think of the Paul Craig fight when we think of Ankalaev. So there's always that little bit of, is there some kind of vulnerability with the guy? Just, I know people get caught, but it was just the way he tapped really quick. He must have known there was seconds left. But besides that, he's never lost a round in the UFC. Even the Paul Craig fight, he was going to win 30-27, and then he got caught and tapped with a second left. Besides that, he's been pretty dominant in all of his fights. Special fighter, can fight out both stances, like I've said already. He's got really good ground and pound. We haven't really seen it in the UFC. We saw some of his top game against Doucher, but he's got some really nasty knockouts with ground and pound pre-UFC. Wonder if we might start to see that here. This is a really good fight. I'm going to go with Ankalaev. As I say, line's a bit wide. It's light heavyweight. He could get cracked. Krylov's dangerous, and he's not got a bad sub game either, Krylov. But I just think Ankalaev looks like a guy that's marching towards a shot at that title. The Craig fight was like 3 years ago now. He's not put a foot wrong since. I think he's found his stride in the UFC now. And Krylov, he's been sub 5 times. He's only been KO'd once, but you go back, watch his Serkinov fight. Serkinov hurts him on the feet. That's what leads to the submission. Krylov's cardio isn't great either. He can slow down in fights. I just think Ankalaev's the more well-rounded, better mixed martial artist. But, minus 350 is a big price to pay. But I'm still sticking with Ankalaev here. I think, as I say, he's marching towards the title. Main event, we have Ciryl Gane taking on Rozenstruik. A lot of hype behind Ciryl Gane. Rozenstruik is a good striker. There's no takedown threat here from Rozenstruik. If anyone's going to hit a takedown, it'll be Ciryl Gane, because we have seen him use them in the UFC. But the fight probably plays out on the feet. Rozenstruik got a last-minute win over, or last-second win even, over Alistair Overeem. He got taken out badly by Francis Ngannou, but he came back and got a good win against Jimmie dos Santos back in August. Ciryl, this is a step up for him. He's 7-0, only had 7 fights. He's got a, he's not a murdering type heavyweight. He's quite light-footed, moves around. I've spoken about this before. My worry with him is his power. If he's not getting guys out of there and he's having to win over 3 rounds or even 5 rounds if he's in main events, you're just in that arena for longer. The longer you're in there, especially at heavyweight, the more chance you've got of being clipped. He did finish Jimmie dos Santos. It was a bit of a weird ending, that one. But up until that point, it didn't really look like a finish was coming. He had the decisions over Tanabosa. He got a really late, random heel hook submission over Moises. And he did sub Caceres in the first round. So, he's shown some wrinkles to his submission game. But in terms of power, he hasn't really shown kind of massive raw power. And that's just a worry. If this fight might go 5 rounds and Rozenstruik can crack, you're at risk of getting caught across 5 rounds, especially in this small cage. Though I know the over 1.5 got smashed to pieces. There's no way I'm touching it now at minus 200. We've seen heavyweight main events the last 2 weeks, and everyone thought that the overs were going to hit, and they didn't in either of them. So I'm not touching that price. Even as much as it seems like this will go over 1.5, I thought Blades and the Volkov fights would go over 1.5. I didn't bet either because I think the lines got mashed. And I was on Volkov anyway. I didn't want to double up on the fight. I'm glad I didn't, because I would have lost on the over there. So, I do understand why this got bet down, but I'm not touching it at where it is now. Over 2.5's pick. It still doesn't really interest me. Not when I just think about what's happened the last 2 weeks. And Rozenstruik can crack. Can Ciryl Gane put Rozenstruik away? I don't know. Decision line for Gane is sitting at, let's see where that is now. Gane wins by a decision. Kind of see it. I'm only seeing unanimous. Plus 385 for a unanimous decision. So decision's probably sitting at plus 300 or so. It's not a bad bet for a heavyweight fight. In terms of value, though, on the money line, so I don't think that's a bad bet. I'm not laying minus 275 on Ciryl Gane on his money line, though. Is a step up for him here. It's heavyweight, small cage, and he takes one shot. He has looked good. They're both coming off wins over Junior Dos Santos was Ciryl Gane's, and I see Rozenstruik fought last as well, I think. Yeah, both round 2 KO wins. Joe, I'm going to pick Rozenstruik here. I think the value's with him. I think it's a bit wide. I do like Ciryl Gane. He looks good, but like I say, I just don't like the fact that he hasn't shown any power. Well, heavyweight power is what I mean. I mean, obviously the guy, I wouldn't want to take a slap off the guy, but I just don't think he hasn't got that one-punch knockout power. I spoke about this before with Volkov. I said that I thought that might hinder him in terms of reaching for the title. I mean, Ciryl Gane is a different fighter to Volkov in the terms of he's got a lot more movement. He's going to be harder to hit, a lot lighter on his feet. But how does he take a shot? We haven't really seen, who's he fought? Yes, a good win over Junior Dos Santos last time out. But apart from that, he's not fought anyone. And Junior's shot, let's be real, Junior's shot. So I'm going to go with the dog here. I'm going to go with Rozenstruik. But Rozenstruik can be frustrating. You watch some of his fights, can be low volume at times. He needs to come out and try and get busy, because if he just sits back throwing low volume, he's going to get picked apart for 5 rounds most likely. So he's going to have to change something up here. But small cage, main event, money line's just too wide for me. People are probably parlaying Ciryl, etc., but no, not for me. So I'll go with Rozenstruik. I'm not confident, but just the value just seems to be with him for me. It's just a bit wide. Hype on Ciryl he just beat Junior Dos Santos, but before that he's beaten Bosa, Mays, Pessoa. Yeah, he looked good. But Rozenstruik's, he's got a win over him. I know he was going to lose the fight. It was last ditch, but he still put him away right at the end of that fight. Put away Orlovsky as well quickly. So it might be the type of fight, though, that he's losing until he wins. So if you're going to bet it, it might be one where you're like, oh, what have I done here with my money? And then you might get a crack out of nowhere and he puts him away. So it's a risky bet, but just if you want to bet the fight, I'm passing on the fight, but if you want to bet the fight, I personally think the value is having a little bit on the underdog there. So that real quick breakdowns, guys, as I said, bit longer than I wanted to do really, but be back next week to break down the card, be back to normal next week. Hopefully I'll do better than 2-10 this week. We'll get back onto normal parity, which would be normally I win or not win. Normally I pick more winners than losers week in, week out. Worst case is normally like, I might go 5-5 or something, or 6-6, but 2-10, bad. And then 2 weeks ago, I think I went 3-7. So I'm a bit of a rough patch at the minute on the picks. Worst couple of weeks. I think they're the worst 2 weeks I've had in the last 3 weeks since I've been doing these videos, which is a good 2 years or so now. So good luck with your bets. Hope you cash. And I'll be back next week. Good card next week. I like it for betting as well.